So, Dirty Hands, Clean Money podcast number 2. Sitting here with USA Lifted. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, what's up, guys? Jackson Salaney with USA Lifted. I started the page, like almost 5 years ago, and we're here today with 322,000 followers. So I love to do it and just love sharing the trucks.
So, with an Instagram page, would you say it's almost a full-time job running a page of that size?
Yeah, it's funny. When I first started, I used to set alarms. And it's kind of, I tried to post 3 times a day on that page always. And I used to set alarms, and every single time an alarm would go off on my phone, all my friends would be like, oh, time to post. And so, it's like 3 times a day, you got to take a few minutes to as much as, 20, 30 minutes to find that right post and put it up. And then, you're on there throughout the day, interacting with people, making sure the page is running smoothly. So definitely a full-time job. It has really turned into a bit more for me on that front.
With Instagram pages, a lot of people don't know, all the hard work that goes into it. I've done a couple theme pages and everything like that. What do you think the main thing getting started with Instagram pages is?
I think the biggest thing is just figuring out like what content you're going to put out. Too many people, they're just thinking, it's all viral platform. So like, I'm just going to make a couple stupid things. They're going to blow up and then I'll be big. And it's definitely a lot more than that. We always push people to try and find their niche when they're like starting pages like that. And it's definitely just about, slow down, figure out how much content you can make, what kind of content you can make, look at what people are responding to your content. And if they like something that you were like, I didn't really like putting that out. If they like it, there's your niche, put that out. So it's really just about, I always push content first, and just figure out what's going to work, and keep rolling that.
I used to run a page called Nasty Lifted Lifestyle. It is a pretty small page. I ended up purchasing it at 8,000 followers and getting rid of it at 20K. But the big thing with Instagram pictures, is really figuring out what works. With the page and everything like that, I kind of got it at, like I said, 8,000 followers at an average of 400 likes a post. Getting rid of it at eight to 10,000 likes per picture, which is pretty good at, almost 50%, 40 to 50% engagement. That's pretty astronomical. The big thing is finding, those few 10, 20 posts that really engage. Do you ever find yourself posting a picture more than once because you see that it does pretty well?
I see a lot of guys that do that. They'll repost it, especially the guys, they'll repost videos. Like every 3 to 6 months, some guys will cycle through the same video content because they know it'll do good. I really focus on trying to put out new stuff. I'll repost the same guy's trucks multiple times, but always new pictures. In my eyes, I'm not necessarily, we're running the page simply just to get like mass engagement. I'm not going to repost videos just because I know they're going to do great on the Explore page. I'd rather share unique trucks and new pictures of stuff so that people have stuff to enjoy. But, it's not a terrible idea to kind of repost that certain thing, knowing it'll do really well. Doing it a bunch, every 3 months, you're posting the same picture. You might lose that loyal following because they're going to get old, they're going to kind of get used to your content. It's going to get old for them. So I try and shy away from that when I can.
And I know that that's the hardest part. There was a picture that I used to post all the time that was, there was a select handful, about 9 to 12 pictures, but there was one with 3 dent sides in a garage. They're all in different lifts, and you really got to get people engaged. So you try to ask questions and everything like that. And it was always which one you taking. And on each of those, I posted it 4 times, and each of them got over 8,000 likes each. So I knew it was kind of working. Do you starting an Instagram page and getting, a following, what do you suggest to the guys that are, starting up?
Yeah, going right back to that post right there, it's right. You asked a question and you got mass engagement. It's all about asking questions and trying to engage the audience. Nowadays, the Instagram algorithm pushes for engagement so much more. A like doesn't mean nearly as much as a comment or a share or a save. And so kind of putting out that content and getting people to engage with it on, you know, a more personal comment level or things like that, that's what's really going to start it out early. You'll see some guys, they go a little overboard with the questions. There's a couple of guys I follow who are just kind of trying to be Instagram famous a bit too much. And so they'll ask stupid questions on every single one just to kind of provoke people and get them to respond. And I think there's a happy medium in that. But definitely, you know, push questions, do story polls, show you're as active as possible. And that's how you're going to take off super quickly. And that's how you're going to really grow that audience, especially in the beginning, because it'll be a much more personal one-on-one.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at your page, you post a lot of different kind of trucks. Is there a theme that you feel that you fit into, or do you just post whatever looks good and whatever you think could, get a lot of recognition?
Yeah, it's kind of gone through the years of certain parts. I'm posting for people trying to get that growth, and then it's kind of turned into it's just a personal page where if I like a truck, I'll put it on there. I definitely lean towards more of that show truck, big wheels, something like that. And a lot of people hate that. Even on a page where I've been posting basically trucks with 24s, 26s for the last 5 years, there's people on there who will go, why are there not 15s and 40s on this? And so you really, like, for me, it's just, I want to put out what I want to put out. And if they're going to comment that they hate it, hey, that's another comment. That's another engagement. And the comment threads on some of my posts are hilarious because guys are just going at each other over just the stupidest stuff. Because everyone has their opinion, and I think that's why people go on Instagram and show. So like that page for me is a place where I can kind of share my opinion, and people share it back, and that's really the kind of natural engagement that Instagram can be.
Is there a notable, I guess, so looking at the page again, there's a lot of different content and there's a lot of different timestamps. Do you try to post a minimum amount a day?
Yeah. So basically, when I first started, I got this app that was, like best times to post on Instagram. And just like in the insights on Instagram, where it tells you when your followers are active, it kind of analyzes that and gives you, 1, 2, 3, or 4 times that are the best times to post. And for me, that was kind of narrowed down to around 11. I mean, this is all in Pacific time. It was around 11. It was around 3:30. It was about 5:30 and 7:30. And so in the beginning, I was putting out, I think, 4 pieces a day at all of those times. And then I kind of noticed that, that 3:30 post wasn't doing that great. And that's a tough post to get up because, you're still kind of, end of the workday or end of the school day there. So that one wasn't really a great one to get up. So I shifted to more of that 11:30, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And I've been doing that for 3 years now. And even sometimes, once or twice a week, it's more like 2 posts. I'll do an 11 a.m. and then, 5 or 6 p.m. and I'll call it a day. Especially if I see that certain posts, if that 5 p.m. post is doing killer, I'm not going to put another post out that's going to stop that post from getting as much engagement. I'm going to leave that, let it keep going. And so that's kind of how I've narrowed down my posting times. It's really good just to look at the insights on Instagram, see when your followers are active, make sure you're timing your posts to, hit them when they're most active.
Yeah, for sure. I think starting out, there's a lot of people that, oh, I want to run a theme page, blah blah blah. There's a lot of different. There's not a shortage. There's a lot of guys out there that want to do it, and it takes a lot of tenacity. I know when I started, it's a lot of work. I would reach out to guys, um, I would reach out and say, hey, with 6 to 10, well, 8 to 10,000 followers, I would say, hey, would you be down to do a shout out for shout out? And these would mostly be guys with like 2, 3,000 followers. And I know one day I was like, how many can I get? And Instagram felt like there was some robot, stuff going on. So I could only do 87, but I got 87 story posts, shout out for shout outs in one day. And I
Damn.
think my following grew almost 980 or something like that followers in one day. And I think you can't be afraid of really throwing yourself out there. There's a lot of different opportunities, and people think that they're burning bridges asking if people want to do shout out for shout out. Realistically, I do you think that that's a good way to start?
Well, and especially on that, like, definitely, I would say yes, that's definitely a good way to start. Especially like, let's say if it's a personal truck page, I see guys who are just simply, it's as simple as taking a friend or some guy that you follow on Instagram who has a nice truck putting his post on your story, they're probably going to put your post on their story. And so just like that, you didn't even have to ask for shout for shout. Now both of your posts are on each other's stories. That's an even easier way to do it. But the whole, story shout for shout, I haven't done a lot of them. I always kind of shied away from shout for shout just because I wasn't trying to put extra time into hunting down bigger pages, as obviously the little pages do. We get a lot of DMs of the smaller pages trying to get me to do a shout out for them, and so that's kind of why I've shied away from it. But you get a lot of notice from that. I try to keep the page a little bit cleaner, and so I don't want to throw a bunch of ads at people. So that's why I shy away from the shout for shouts. But especially starting out when you haven't really hit that niche, it's not like posting a couple shout for shouts is going to ruin your audience. You'll pull in, like you said, 1,000 followers a day. I mean, that's a successful day of 90 story shout for shouts. I think that's definitely a great way to do it. And like I said, it's as simple as just adding someone's post to your story, hoping they add it back.
Okay, getting down into the nitty gritty with theme pages, there is money to make. Do you see yourself making a significant amount on theme pages?
So I've actually, my last truck, I had a 6.0 that borderline blew up on me, but I built that truck basically just about half of it from sponsorships, tires, headlights, track bars, exhaust, stuff like that. So, I mean, there's definitely a significant amount of money from social media and theme pages, things like that. I know a bunch of guys who are just cashing in from Instagram. I don't, I haven't pushed to monetize it as much. I like getting the sponsorships and things so that I can, pull parts out of it and just make building my rigs a little bit easier. On top of that, I have a decal shop on there that I pull a little bit of monetization out of there. But absolutely with Instagram, I mean, I see pages as small as 20, 30,000 in followers, and they have huge brands built on it, and they have super loyal followers. They are constantly selling product, selling ads, things like that. I mean, it's super easy to get to that point. It's just about putting the time in and working with the right brands for that.
Yeah, Nasty Lifted Lifestyle used to work with Move Bumpers. And what I used to do is I'd do that story for story shout out. And then I'd reach out to, let's say for that day, I was working on Duramaxes. So I'd find a video with with Duramax with a Move Bumper that I thought looked really nice. I'd reach out to these Duramax theme pages or just, pages that, had Duramaxes. And I'd say, hey, you'd be down for a story for story shout out. And this time I probably had 18,000 followers. So with someone, with 3,000 followers, it's stupid to say no. Um, I send them this Move Bumper kind of ad with my, you know, affiliate link and everything like that. They'd post it, and I was making, I mean, not in my pocket, but I was grossing Move Bumpers $15 to $2,000 a week just from doing that 3 or 4 times a week. Um, do you currently right now partner with any brands with affiliate links and anything like that?
I do not at the moment. I know you and I are working on some stuff. And I'm excited about that. But basically, I've done that in the past, and it definitely takes a lot of time to push that stuff out. But I'd say it works if you have the right audience. I've definitely seen it work in the past. We used a couple. We did of course, Diesel Power Gears, trying to get everyone on board with their affiliate link. We did that for a little bit. That did a little bit, but it was just kind of like, all right, I don't want to keep pushing this. And then I forget what other company we partnered with. I want to say some light company. We did an affiliate link like that long ago. And it worked. Yeah. I mean, they do work. It's really just what you're going to put into it, because you got to push that code to make that code work. But I mean, you see so many pages with affiliate links that, I mean, they definitely work.
Going on the diesel power gear thing, we've heard a lot of maybe not negative things, but not so great things. Do you think that partnering and seeing everyone partner with diesel power gear is the wrong move?
You know, I've heard some stories. I don't know. I've talked to a couple guys, and I just kind of get a negative feeling from the guys that have worked with diesel power gear. I mean, I've heard the stories of the guys that are pulling out, like 500 to 1,000 every week because they are plugging that code hard. People are really using their code to buy that stuff. And I mean, hats off to them. They are crushing it on that front. But I've definitely heard my fair share of negative stories of guys just like these guys won't stop pestering me. They're signing me up for codes. I don't want to be affiliated with these guys. Like it's a ripoff, like all this. My followers hate it, like all that. So I've heard it go both ways. That's kind of why I just kind of stay out of it and try to avoid any of that drama.
It seems like nowadays it's almost oversaturated with codes. You can go on to almost any one page, whether it's a theme page or a normal Instagram page, and you'll see a diesel power gear, code.
Exactly.
I think I think the big thing with that is trying to pave your own way, because I know, ironically enough, we worked with TSO before with my theme page. We worked with TSO before starting Thunder Custom. So that
Yeah.
ironic enough. But I mean, the worst you can do, a lot of companies don't necessarily offer a straight affiliate program, but can set you up a code. And the biggest thing is asking. Um, and you know, there's not something, most of the time they're not even going to respond, let alone say yes or no. Most of the time you'll just get left on, delivered forever. With 20 to 30,000 followers, you most likely aren't going to get a huge response. I mean, but you have to be prepared to really understand that running a theme page isn't easy.
Yeah. Well, and to expand on that a little bit more, what I recommend doing is obviously send that DM. You won't get a response. I mean, I've literally sent DMs to like Toyo Tires and Nitto Tires. I don't even know why I expected a response from them. I think one of them read it actually, even, which was funny. But even a step further is a lot of companies nowadays, they are pushing these affiliate programs, and you can actually go to their website. I know like Archon Off-Road, Custom Offsets, you can go to their websites, like actually put in a request to be an affiliate, and they have to look at that, and most of them get back to you. And so one way to do it, and obviously not everyone wants to push the code, but you can go to a company offering to push a code for them and kind of get a little bit back for yourself. Go in there and go, okay, yeah, like, hey man, like think about it in terms of what parts do you want to run on your own truck? Okay, well then go towards, let's say a certain traction bar company. Be like, hey man, I'd love to push a code for you, 10% off. I don't want anything from it. I'd love to do that for 30, 60, 90 days. If you'll give me, a 40 or 50% code for a one-time use of my own. Because then it's like, I mean, who knows how much you're saving? The company's much more willing to do that than pay out cash on every order to you. And I found that is definitely a huge way to do it. That is probably how I built the other half of like not fully sponsored parts on my last truck. And so that's a good way to do it. And you never know who's going to say yes. I've had King Shocks give me deals on their stuff because of things like that.
And I think there's no limit to that. You can realistically ask for anything, and I would say don't lowball yourself. Really know what your worth is, but don't. There's a lot of guys out there that think their shit don't stink, but realistically, you got to get your head out of your ass, and you got to really, narrow down that you're not the only one out there. I mean, there's thousands of pages with the same amount of following, whether you have a million or whether you have 10,000. There's thousands of pages that have this that roll out the same type of content, and they have every right to choose a different page. You just really have to set yourself out when you talk to them. You say, hey, if you'd be down to talk over the phone, or just send a really detailed email with analytics and everything like that. The more detailed you are, the I mean, it sounds okay. Yeah, it sounds like it's supposed to. The more detailed you are, the more likely you're going to get that sponsorship, because the big thing that people think about, it's like, oh, I don't want to take up their time, blah blah blah. This is what they're looking for. Brands need the social media presence to succeed nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I worked with Horn Blasters quite a bit a few years back. And I mean, you think about a big brand like that, like why would they want to work with anyone? I mean, they're constantly working with guys because they just want more and more presence. And especially on that, I mean, you really never know what people are going to say. And that whole insights thing, I focused on sending the most detailed message I could and separating myself from the rest. Like what amount of followers am I gaining every single week that's probably more than another page that I could use in the message? What is the best metric that sets me apart? Like, hey man, like I'd love to promote your tires. Like I'm putting out 3,000 new followers every single week. My audience is exactly the audience you're trying to sell your tires to. Like I'd love to connect and work a bit more, see if we can work out a deal on a set of tires, and I'll push a code for you. Things like that. That really does I mean, you're going to have such a low percentage of even just viewership on those brands looking at your message. But, you pull out 3 or 4 and like, I mean, you've got some big deals there.
I know the biggest thing and the hardest part about it is um the social aspect is there's a lot of people that don't feel that they are able to make phone calls and be able to stay sustainable on phone calls, and they're pretty nervous with that. But the biggest thing is if you can get a contact like that, realistically, you call the brand, they'll direct you to a department. Sometimes you'll get, that ring for 45 minutes, and then you're like, well, okay, so clearly it's not going to work out. Next, there's always brands that are out there looking for more people to work with. But all you got to do is ask, and bringing stuff up, calling them, DMing them, be consistent. There's people that have shown consistency that, DM'd me 30, 40 times, and, I gave them a sponsorship because their tenacity, just because I know that they're consistent with things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. And especially I like that calling idea. I mean, how many like themed Instagram pages are picking up the phone and like calling a big brand and being like, here's what I can offer you? Not too many. And so that's another way to set yourself apart and really get the deals you want.
Going on to a different space, do you dabble in the aspect of buying and selling Instagram pages?
I don't actually. I know that like everyone who has a page like mine, they're big back and forth with pages. And I've built a couple, kind of given them to friends a little bit. But obviously they weren't very big. Let a couple just kind of fall apart and sit there. But I've yet to buy and sell. I find that the buying and selling, as simple as it can be, I mean, I've heard of so many guys who are getting scammed, and they get through that process of this guy that wants to pay him 3 grand for this small page, and they're like, "Oh man, this is borderline too good to be true." And I mean, it is
It is.
because
It always is.
yeah, right. So I see a lot of everyone. I get DMs every week like, "Hey man, like 10 grand for your page," and I'm like, I mean, like, how do you even want to do this? And they're like, "Oh, like you just send me your password, but you have the authentic email so that if I get in, I scam you, like you can take the account back." And it's like, no, you're telling me these things to try and get me to believe you, but once you're in, I mean, you can do whatever you want. So the login is a very sacred thing for me that I don't share with anyone. And if you're gonna do a deal, the only thing I would do if it's not in person is, I know there's a lot of really good social media escrow sites where he puts the money in, you put your account in, the site handles the swap for you so that both parties have what they came to get, and there's no scams that way. Although I've even seen guys who will build their own escrow sites just to screw you out of it. I've clicked on the escrow site link and I found it and I was like, okay, like this looks legit. And then you try and Google that site and it is nowhere to be found. So it's simply just something he created as a landing page. And so you just got to be careful out there with the buying and selling. But I mean, if you're good at growing pages, which a lot of people are, buy them for low, build them up another 20,000 followers and sell them. I know quite a few guys that are making good money off that.
Do you think running theme page could turn into a full-time job?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, right. You put us in a group chat with that Wicked Truck Society guy, and he's an interesting one, and he's talking about all this. He's buying and selling pages every week, and he seems like, I think that's his only job, and he's doing it full time, making good money at it. I think he's got a decal shop and all that. So it's about having the little side hustles that kind of work with it. But definitely running and selling and buying those pages, if you're doing it right and you're good enough at it, could totally be full time. Obviously, just depending on, I don't think anyone's pulling out $250,000 a year of that. But I mean, you look at Diesel Trucking, that guy, he's like
Was
19,
building his own
20.
truck with
Yeah,
branded
he's like,
around the page.
yeah, he's like 20 years old. He's built like 3 SEMA trucks already because he's got a 1 million following. So, anything really is possible. And I think he's playing it really well. So just kind of keep pushing, I would say, to anyone that wants to do that.
Yeah, and another thing with that, I mean, buying and selling Instagram pages is very risky. I know I've been scammed out of a couple. I mean, realistically, 200-300 bucks isn't a lot of money, but when you get up to those, you know, 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, pages, and you lose that, you're fucked. I mean, you're screwed. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. it's almost a gamble. I mean, you're basically gambling with it. So the biggest thing is to stray away from it, or and don't use those sites that sell Instagram pages either, because normally
Yeah.
they get blacklisted. Um, and then you're kind of screwed. You're not going to get any growth on those whatsoever. Um, I think the biggest thing is reach out to the pages, talk to them a little bit, and try to feel out who they are. Whether they're, because there are guys out there that you can tell just by their post schedule want to get out of it. They're done. They're bored. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And
They're putting up 3 in one day and then, waiting a few days, putting up another 7.
oh yeah, either they're really busy or they're bored. I mean, either way, they'd like an extra grand in their pocket for you know 70, 80,000 followers. And you know with that you can make, I don't know, buco amounts of money. I mean, if you take a $5,000 investment and if you can pick up a page at 100K, the big thing with that is you're super set off, whether you have low interactions or not. Let's say you have 3, 4, or 5% interactions, you could grow that up to 10 to 20%, in a year, most likely. And with that, I mean, then all those sponsorships come on, you pay for ad spots. Um, you have different opportunities. There's a lot of different spaces you can go with it as well. There's, anything's possible branding wise, whether you come out with your own product, you market other people's product, or like you do. I mean, you have your own decal shop. I don't know how much it's in the picture through the Instagram pages, but different side hustles like you talked about.
Yeah, yeah, and even kind of going back to what you said about oh man, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, so the smaller pages versus the bigger 5, 10, $20,000 on a page. I like the guys that are picking up 5, 10 pages a week for 200, $300 with just anywhere between 5 and 15,000 followers. They're kind of dead, and they're nursing those pages back to life for a couple months, getting them up to 20, 30, 40,000 followers, and then they're offloading them for a grand or two. I mean, that's a nice little side hustle right there. And like you said, way lower risk than working your way all the way up and then dropping 30K on that 1.1 million follower page. It's definitely, there's money to be made on all sides and all scales there.
Do you think that there is how do I say it? Is there oh my lord, is there a good way, to kind of run a page? Is there like a perfect way to run an Instagram page?
I think if there was, you would see too many of one pages. I mean, everyone is doing something else nowadays. You've got obviously the truck page like market is saturated, it's oversaturated, but that's kind of what led to people having to do things differently. When I first started USA Lifted, there was one page that was doing videos. Like I think it was Nasty Truck Vids was the only page posting videos, and they were blowing up. That guy was putting on 5, 10, 15,000 followers a week. And so I was like, what in the world? So I started doing videos. And I'd like to think I was one of the first pages, I know that I wasn't, who was also kind of starting with the videos, and I attribute a lot of my early success to that. But I mean, it's really just about what's going to work, what's going to increase the numbers, and pushing that. Yeah, of course, I lost my train of thought again there a little bit. Forgot the question, but I mean, that's kind of what I did was figure out what separates yourself from others. And I don't know if perfect page, the perfect content. Everyone's going to strive for that. You've got guys who will, post the same thing every other week. They'll throw big text over the photos. And they'll get huge engagement. And then, like, I like to think of myself as a purist. I don't want to, put anything on that post. And that might be hurting my page just by simply asking a question in the caption. That might be hurting my page because I'm not putting big text on it. But, to each their own. And I think if you're happy with the page and you're profiting off it in some way or other, or you're continuing to grow, then I think that works.
And I completely agree with that. What I've noticed recently are reels are like, I think
Yeah.
reels are probably the number one thing next to, voting on a story poll. I think those two things right now are probably the best way to grow a page interaction wise.
Absolutely. Reels are I've referred to Reels as a cheat code for since they came out about 6 months now. And it is no underestimate. I mean, I have had a reel get, I think it was about 600,000 likes and 7.5 million views. And I can attribute like 15 to 20,000 followers in 1 week from that one reel. You never know what's going to catch. And I think that's what I loved about videos back when we were starting to do videos on the page is like the volatility is so huge. And Instagram loves videos because it keeps them on the platform longer. People are watching the videos. They're not just glancing at a photo and scrolling by. So the videos are always going to do better. And when Reels first came out, Instagram was pushing them. They're really trying to take down TikTok with that. So the algorithm was favoring them hugely. And you've seen pages now who are, instead of posting, mostly videos and a couple pictures, they're 100% reels. All they're doing is reels. You post 6 reels and one of them is bound to catch and just take off. And who knows how many likes and views you're getting on that. I wish that reels showed insights. You can't really see any of the numbers on what that reel is doing. And I think Instagram's probably doing that intentionally because they're in the back end kind of boosting the reels up and they don't want us to really see that. But absolutely, reels 100%. You can get so creative, especially if you're a personal page, or if you're just a kind of a truck theme page. Push reels, don't overdo them, but they're really what Instagram's pushing, and the growth is endless on those. I've seen huge spikes from certain reels.
And it's crazy because I think you hit the nail on the head with trying to beat out Facebook and Instagram are trying to beat out TikTok with introducing the reels, because YouTube's done the same freaking thing. I found myself scrolling through YouTube looking for a video to listen to while I'm working, and I'll
And the
end up on the
stories.
freaking the short videos,
Yeah,
whatever those are called, and I'll just be
whatever they
scrolling
call them.
through.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I'll just be sitting there, and I'll be sitting there on my phone looking for a YouTube video, and I'll somehow get to those, that short form content. And the biggest thing is realizing the psychological thing behind it is we're growing towards shorter and shorter content. That's why Vine did so well. That's why Musically did so well, and that's why TikTok's doing so well. It's because it's short form content, and people's, you know, attention spans is growing a lot shorter, even with age. Just how society is evolving. It doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're 5 or 50, your attention span is becoming shorter.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's just that, it's a short piece of content that tells a small story and people just love to sit there and scroll. The YouTube one, it's funny, they do such a good job of, finding the people that you watch the most and just getting their little short videos in front of you so that you don't have to click on one of their 10-minute videos. And I mean, they're just pumping ads to you, and it's definitely the short form videos is what's taking over. And that, I mean, yeah, like Reels, exactly.
With Instagram, it's, with the buyout of Instagram from Facebook, what do you see in the future? Do you think Facebook could realistically take over the social media platforms as a whole? Because I know um, Instagram introduced the stories to outdo Snapchat, which at first it was really noticeable. It's very noticeable that was the case. But now it seems as if Instagram and Snapchat are pretty, neck and neck when it comes to stories and the Snapchat formality.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, Snapchat, I mean, I'm invested in some of their stock and they have not let Instagram slow them down. Their company is booming. They're kind of going their own direction. I mean, they're doing that whole, short form video, but they're really loading up like, I mean, like Snapchat, like almost TV in itself, right? You can go to that feed page of Snapchat and watch videos for days. And so Snapchat is killing it. And I think they're kind of trying to go in a different direction of Instagram. They're really trying to push away from, I mean, they're going to have their stories, but Instagram is very feed. And I think Snapchat is trying to be more of an entertainment app in itself with more short form videos in a different sense that people would want to watch. It's not necessarily just your influencers on Instagram that you would see. I don't. I think I see Instagram definitely taking over more and more. I don't. At this point, if Snap was going to get kicked out, I think they would have, back when Instagram tried to rip them off with those stories. And it's funny, yeah, you think back, Instagram stories they're just like a piece of it now. You don't even think about how they're kind of ripping off LinkedIn, because everything has stories now. Even YouTube has stories on it. So it's interesting just to see every new feature that comes out in an app. Definitely Instagram's been ripping it off, and they've yet to really become the only social media platform even after doing that. So I don't think they're really gonna wipe out everyone in the market. There will always be someone like TikTok who comes in like that. I mean, even Clubhouse, the new one. There's always going to be new social media, because I think as like humans, we just want different sorts of interaction that social media offers.
And going on that, like you mentioned, Clubhouse, how do you see Clubhouse interacting with the automotive world in terms of, content and stuff like that?
Yeah, Clubhouse is an interesting one. I got on, I wouldn't say early, but I was definitely on there a couple months ago. And it was kind of a time suck for me, because I would hop on and it's like you're listening to a podcast, but it's just live and it's really never ending. And sometimes you sit there and you don't really get a lot of value from it. You're kind of just, there's just people going back and forth. And sometimes you pull great nuggets out of it. And so I could see certain automotive pieces doing well in there. If you get to certain guys who are on a podcast and they want to, go live on Clubhouse and people want to ask questions, I think that's a huge piece of what makes that platform so likable. But I don't know if I'll ever find myself getting back in there and sitting there for hours and hours listening to that stuff. I think it's going to be more of, I hope it leans more towards, like events, and almost like, like kind of like the exclusivity of a concert, right? Like, okay, we've got, like these two huge truck guys are going to go hop onto Clubhouse later, and they're going to talk about, SEMA the last week. And I think that's something, we'd all want to hop on and listen to. So I think that's how I see that kind of being a bit in the automotive industry, as well as brands, I think have yet to really break in there. And like, I think they could, it's tough because there's no visuals, but they could do a good job if they play it right of, marketing their products and connecting with customers even more.
I think with that, there's a lot of potential. I think a really good opportunity for that would be like a company going live at like Daytona or Myrtle Beach or SEMA and say, hey, we're going to be live for the next 5 hours. Let's see who we can bring on. We don't know exactly who's going to come on, but anyone that stops by the booth has a quick question, we'll sit them down, we'll talk to them. We might be able to have some other big guys, Omar St. Cloud might come on, some other guys, brands, stuff like that,
Exactly.
just sit down for a couple hours and just chat up a storm.
Yeah, no, I think that could be well, and that's another thing where it's like, and I think that's maybe where Clubhouse doesn't win exactly, is because I think people would love to see that. I think that's where like IG Live really comes
Exactly.
in, because we want to see that. But I mean, the same with a podcast, right? Like we listen to podcasts and we can't see them, so I think there are people that would want to hop on and listen to Omar talk about like Lone Star Throwdown with American Force Wheels in the booth, that kind of thing.
Do you ever see theme pages? Do you ever think that a theme page could break the mold in terms of, I mean, Diesel Trucking's doing a great job. He's introducing the truck theme page into an actual physical product, not product, but fruition, like the truck and everything like that. Do you ever see theme pages breaking the mold and showing up at shows and booths and stuff like that?
Yes, and I'm seeing that a lot more nowadays, right? These big guys who are like, who kind of, they are their page, are showing up and they've got builds and they are really like, they are their page. I'm trying to think of other examples. But I mean, guys are putting on, I mean, you see big pages putting on truck shows. They show up and they have booths. It's definitely, it's cool to see. And I think we're going to see more and more of that, just because the numbers keep going up, and people like connecting. And I think there's more connection over there. And I mean, I've heard stories of guys who have, 10, 15,000 followers in this niche little, an F-150 page or something like that. And they're like, yeah, dude, like I went to a show and like I was wearing my F-150 shirt, like for my page. And, people were coming up to me like, yo, dude, is that your page? Like, nice to meet you. And like all this. And so, it's funny. You never really know who you touch. And I think there's going to be more and more growth in that, and, showing up to shows and having that recognition from it.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot more than your following, because I had a buddy that I used to work with. He texted me the other day and he's like, "You're on my For You page, or not my For You page. You're on my Discover page on Instagram." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I saw a Thunder Customs tip on my Discover page the other day." And I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And it kind of sucked. It wasn't at the actual Thunder Customs page. It was one of the theme pages we were working with, but it was still cool because he's like, "Yeah, I saw this on my Discover page. I was scrolling through the other day." And you really don't know who you get to. Um, in a small town. I mean, it's not small, but Sioux Falls only has 250,000 people. It's not as big as Minneapolis, Houston, people, bigger cities, LA, places like that. So it's pretty cool to like really see where it can go, whether there's likes on it or not. Seeing seeing product and seeing where it goes is really big. I mean, if you don't get a share, you don't get a like, just because someone doesn't like it doesn't mean they don't see it. It's all subconscious. People see a product, they'll think about that. So the next time they think, "Oh, I need LEDs," they'll most likely think back to either a super high-end LED brand that they've known forever. But if they've never, talked or looked for LEDs before, and they see this ad for LEDs, they'll be like, "Oh, I remember this place. I don't remember what they did." But then they'll go back and they'll scroll through the page and then they'll just add more insights to that page.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's either that or they'll go to Amazon and buy the cheapest thing they can find. No.
Always.
But I mean that, yeah, right. That's marketing itself. And I think that's why the potential of working with brands is so huge, because more and more of them are realizing that that really is how a lot of truck guys are buying things, right? Like if you see something that's in your head, and if you see someone, a page being like, "Hey, like, I run these on my truck. These are killer. Here's my code. You'll love them." I mean, if you're looking for, like lights at that point, you'd probably try those out. And so that's definitely the philosophy behind that. And it works.
So rounding out here in the last couple minutes of the podcast, let the guys know, let the people at home know, kind of where you're located, what you got planned for the next year.
Yeah, so I'm in California. I'm just finishing up school at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo in Central California, and I've got a Tacoma build that I'm actually selling right now, and I'm gonna pick up. I'm hoping to pick up kind of a tow rig that'll be the daily, and then I'm gonna build hopefully a brand new Tacoma with a whole kit and whatnot, full 12-inch, something like that. But we'll see how it goes. Everyone's got big plans, and never ends up happening. So don't want to be one of those guys. But yeah, I'm gonna keep pushing the page. I'm hoping to work with some more companies. Of course, you've got some stuff under wraps that I'm excited to get out there on the page, and excited for more growth. Excited to see what more opportunities Instagram puts out there with features and things. And yeah, I'm having a good time around the page. I love the opinions I get to put out on it, and the opinions that people love leaving. So it's always fun.
So yeah, we thank USA Lifted for coming on today. Second episode of the Dirty Hands Clean Money podcast. And we hope to work with everyone and hope everyone has a great day. Thank you
Yeah,
for coming
thanks for
on, brother.
having me. Yeah,
Yep.
thanks for having me.